Members of Budget and Finance and the Council, we have with us District Attorney General Tory Johnson. General Johnson, welcome. If you will introduce the gentleman to your right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There you go.
Is this on?
Yeah, you are.
There I am. I'm Tory Johnson, the District Attorney. To my right is Michael Brook, who is my sort of Chief Administrative and Finance Officer, and we're here for the budget presentation, my last budget presentation.
Bittersweet for us all. The threshold question, General, is can you operate within the mayor's proposed budget?
Well, the answer to that is yes, I can. It is, but it doesn't address the improvements that we had hoped to make in the domestic violence area. But that aside, because it's really what I'd say is a status quo budget, it doesn't allow for improvements in the domestic violence area. But we can certainly live within it because that's what we've been doing.
And you are welcome to elaborate on that. And also, if you would include in those remarks, there is, at least appears in our document, some additional money to address domestic violence. If you would tell us what that increase does and how that fits into the overall plan, but please, the floor is yours to talk about your office.
Okay, well, thank you. Principally, the only thing I'll focus on is domestic violence. Obviously, that's been a priority of the city. And one of the things that came out of the assessment was a desire for our victim witness division to try to contact all the victims of domestic violence within 48 hours of the incident. And we have now for some 6 or 8 months been attempting to do that with existing personnel and keeping a record of all of that. And we came to the conclusion that really in order for us to do that on a consistent basis, we would need one additional person. And so that was really the request that we made to the mayor. In addition to, we have one other person who was on a grant. That grant position was expiring. And so in order to, and that was a domestic violence position. So in order to keep that grant position and add a person, that's what we ask for 2 people in our Victim Witness Services division. And as you can see, that is included in the mayor's proposal. But if you look up above, you'll see a $50,000 reduction in what's called the Juvenile Court Prosecution Unit. Well, that's really just in effect a $50,000 cut because that's a division that is staffed. It's currently staffed. And so really, but at the end of the day, if we were to do that, we would lose somebody in juvenile court to make way for somebody in the domestic violence area, and that's really kind of a wash at this point. So what we would get at the end of the day is one person who would be the grant person that we were losing. We would keep that person, but I'm not really sure we gain much ground if I would have to, I guess, terminate somebody in the juvenile court area so that I could hire someone in the victim witness area, which is not something that I would be doing in the near term. Does that make sense?
It does. 2 positions are added and 1 position is taken out. Effectively.
I mean, $50,000 is roughly, it'd actually be a little bit more for a position, but that's the general point.
So I guess my follow-up would be, if indeed you continue the position in juvenile court and then you were to only fund one of the domestic violence positions, what impact would that make on the issues around domestic violence that everyone's trying to work on?
Well, we would continue to do what we are doing in the domestic violence area, which is, but we would not get consistently to our goal of being able to contact people within 48 hours. We're contacting a lot of those people within 48 hours, but it's not, but in our opinion, in order to do it on a consistent basis, given illness or vacations and things like that extra person was needed. And if that's a goal, that was the way we thought we could get there, would be adding just one advocate in addition to the grant person that we wanted to maintain.
Thank you. Councilwoman Berry.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, General, for being here. And I think that this follows up to Councilman Stein's question. You mentioned that in the $50,000 cut, it means that you are going to have to also freeze 11 positions. Can you explain that a little more for me?
Well, this is a long-standing situation, which really comes in this fashion. We have a number of 25 to 30 assistant district attorneys who are paid for by the metropolitan government. Our office is a state office, but a considerable amount of our resources comes from Metro. Years and years and years ago, we made the decision to be paying our Metro paid assistants in line with our state paid assistants. So we tried to replicate the payroll and the pay scale. And that worked well for years and years. But in the last 10 or 12 years, some changes were made, and consequently, we were no longer able to get the necessary money from Metro on an annual basis in order to keep our assistants in line. And the only way we could do that would be to freeze positions, or when somebody left, we wouldn't fill that position, so we could use that money to cover the gap or the difference in the pay scales. And so over time, that's led to roughly 11 positions that are currently, now not all of those, I will say not all of those are full-time positions. About half of those are full-time positions, and the others are what are kind of part-time or supplement positions. But the effect is that we've got certainly a 5 or 6 full-time positions that we hold open and have held open in order to continue to be able to pay our assistants on the same amount, the Metro paid the same amount as the state paid. So that they're not two different pay scales within the office.
Thank you. And so making sure I understand, those positions really don't exist anymore because they have basically now been absorbed into...
Correct. They don't, I mean, they exist on paper, and
right,
but there's no funding behind them.
Right,
Correct.
okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Chair, and General, thanks for being here. During the campaign, got to meet all these candidates, and one thing Diane Lance was bringing up domestic violence a lot, and she talked about a study that she had worked on, I guess, under the wing of the mayor's office. And I'm just curious, is there a larger vision of things we can do to roll out a domestic violence plan in your office, or is it just the 48 hours?
Well, I mean, there were a whole number of recommendations, all of which are being worked on and being done every day. This was just a piece of it that we felt required an additional person. A couple of years ago, the mayor gave us 2 additional assistant district attorneys, which was critical for us to rebuild what we had as at one time a domestic violence team. But we lost that team over time because of so the creation of 2 new criminal courts, and we didn't get enough staffing to be able to staff it. So there are quite a number of things. There are probably 15 or 20 things that have been done or are being done that relate to domestic violence within the office, but they don't have budgetary implications.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I guess, we're pushing towards a path to, obviously lower the rates. I know there were things related to the police department and a lot of other areas that were part of her plan. And it was very interesting to hear about that during the campaign. I just thought, as long as we're doing everything we can, and I don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul over juvenile and, start mixing money around if we need to be doing everything we can to get these calls in time.
to follow up on what Councilman Davis said, Mr. Rebling, there's approximately about $1 million spread out through a variety of departments relating to issues that came out of that report, are there not?
Mr. Councilman, there's about $1 million increase in the budget this year that's spread through 5 or 6 different departments of the government to start moving into some of those recommendations.
What would be helpful to both you and to Mr. Highnote, if you would provide us perhaps with a summary sheet that shows across all the departments how that money is allocated and how it then applies back to that report would be really helpful.
And I'd also tell that then the committee there's a committee in which General Johnson's a member of that met, I think they met today. I don't go to those meetings, that is continuing discussions on how to move forward with the planned report. So it's not something we can absorb in 1 year just because of the cost and the complexity of it, but there's clear focus and dedication to move in that direction so that it's done in a proper and coordinated way.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, if you can send us that report, it was really fascinating to hear about, and I think everybody would be curious to see that. Appreciate you guys.
Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here, General. Now, you kind of touched on a question I'm going to talk to Chief Anderson about, and that is the domestic violence. You at one time had an entire team, and I was wondering, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we had one of the most, the police department, and an intricate part of that unit was the district attorney's office. One of the most desired or most modern models of domestic violence in the country. And I'm just trying, what happened? What caused all that to?
Well, I mean, I can just say on our side, I mean, we did get resources at the time that you're referring to. The police department got resources, we got resources, I think probation got resources at the time. What happened to us is that we had a 4-person team that worked quite well for a number of years, but the state saw fit to, and we definitely needed 2 additional criminal courts. In order to staff those courts, the state paid some of that, Metro paid some of that, but in the end, we still didn't have enough people, enough assistant DAs to fill 2 full teams in what is now divisions 5 and 6. And so the only way to do that was to take 2 people, essentially take 2 people out of our domestic violence team and put them up in criminal court for that purpose. And we had to make some other changes as well. Now, then, in the meantime, with the other budgetary constraints and so forth, those positions until recently were never replaced. So that's it on my side of the street, which is the only thing I can really speak to.
Thank you. I was wondering what would be the cause of that, and of course, I'm sure 2 additional criminal courts would require some.
I mean, the way we've done it is that, given the workload, we have 4 assistant DAs in each court. And I think we ended up getting 3 lawyers, and to make a 4th in each team, we needed those 2 lawyers out of domestic violence.
Well, it's good now we're bringing it back and getting it up to par where it should be.
Correct. I mean, the mayor gave us 2 people that we needed, and that's made a huge difference. And I think that team is working well and really doing what we need in the way of domestic violence.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you, Chair Stein. I actually have a couple of questions. One was about how much does the city pay and the state as it relates to the employees in terms of, you were speaking about the parity. I just wanted to know.
Let's see. The state in just personnel, this would be lawyers, victim witness coordinators, secretaries, so forth. But the state in personnel and benefits pays $6.1 million. Metro pays $4.2 million.
Okay. And then my second question was, you said 6.1 and we pay how much?
4.2.
And I know it's in there, but I figured you'd know off the top of your head. Okay. And so in the 48 hours, what does the domestic violence or the assistance do in those 48 hours? I was curious to know.
It's our victim witness coordinators that are, that basically are trying to make contact by telephone with victims who, within 48 hours of when a domestic violence incident occurred and someone was arrested, okay? So if they've called the police and the police have gone out and arrested an individual for domestic violence, we then we have women in our office who are looking at that daily arrest sheet, and they're making calls to these people to try to give them information about how the system works, and information about coming to court when they're going to be needed in court, trying to see if there are services that they need, whether that's checking on their safety, whether they need to go to a shelter, whether they need counseling, checking on children, all of these kinds of welfare-related issues. Part of it's welfare, part of it is simply making sure, doing what we can to make sure they will come to court and prosecute, which is a huge issue in the domestic violence area.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really important because we've seen
and I should add that, I mean, from our experience, the sooner we're able to make that contact, the better we're going to be as far as getting them to court and keeping them involved in the prosecution.
Okay, yeah, that's very important because some horrific things have happened this year. We've seen people get their heads blown off after, just some horrible things. So it really is, we really want to make sure we're protecting those persons of domestic violence. The second, my third question was, how many African Americans and Asians are in your office?
Well, we have, all totaled, we have about 20% of the total staff is African American. Probably 5% of the attorney staff is African American. We have, today, we have nobody that's Asian or Hispanic. We have someone who's Egyptian, but that's really that's where we are.
Okay, and that's out of how many people?
Well, of the lawyers, we've got a little, 65 lawyers, and we've got, well, of course, one of our assistants just was elected a general sessions judge, so currently I think we have two right now, three when we had four.
Okay, so is it 3 or 4 now?
3 African Americans today.
Okay, when all of the candidates were speaking for DA, they talked about diversity. And you said it was 3 out of 65, and there's no, I want to make sure I'm quoting you right, you said there's no Latinos?
Correct.
Or no Asians. So if those positions are held, I guess what I'm concerned about, because no matter who won, whether it was Rob, Funk, or Lance, they all made a commitment and saw the need for there being more diversity in the office. And I just don't see how they'll be able to uphold that, or even the new DA, if those positions are held and there's not any money to hire new staff. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I understand what you're saying. That's not going to be the problem. The problem is not really, there'll be turnover in staff. That's just the way it's always going to be. The difficulty is not that. The difficulty is finding candidates to do the job. And it is a very small pool. Davidson County, the figures that I've had, the most recent figures that I've had, show that Davidson County, the number of African American lawyers in the bar is somewhere around 5%. And now that's, of course, very out of proportion to the overall population.
Right, which is 28%.
But that's the pool that you're hiring from. So you
don't do national searches? We only do local searches?
Well, the national figures are the same, 5%. Okay, so it doesn't make any difference really. Now, certainly there are areas where they are more, you may have a higher concentration, but nationally across the country, there's approximately between 5 to 7% is the estimate that of African American attorneys. But generally speaking, no, we are not. We get resumes from people certainly outside of Nashville. It's been our experience that we the people that you hire that are from Nashville, have connections to Nashville, have a reason to be in Nashville, typically stay in Nashville and would stay in the office. And so we've, we typically are hiring in that way.
Okay. I just know that all of them, Rob, who's very experienced, he said that there could be more diverse and that they would do more. And I just see that.
Well, I think we all agree with that. I mean, I don't think you're going to find any argument that diversity is extremely important. We have, and the office, I think it would be great if the office were more diverse, but it is one thing to say that, it's another thing to be able to do that. But that'll be the issue, and I hope, we have a couple of resumes right now. Right now, we don't have any openings, but we have some, not just from African Americans, but from some other minorities that I think anybody would probably be very interested to hire if they can eventually get to that point.
Okay. I would like to see some type of outreach specifically. It doesn't have to be African American, but just to minorities, since that's what they made, and maybe some money putting in that position. I know sometimes you just have to do extra outreach for underrepresented populations. The same strategy can't be used. So I would request, and it may not be honored, but this is on the wish list because I heard all of them say that they were committed to diversity. Each one of them said that, whether they were in the office, had been out of the office, had worked in the office. So how much is the position? How much are those positions?
Now, which positions are we talking about?
The attorneys that we're talking about, where you said the position is closed?
Well,
The 11
essentially,
frozen positions?
You're talking about a frozen position. Well,
Right.
I mean, roughly, without benefits, it's an entry-level position is approximately $45,000.
Okay.
So it's 11 times $45,000.
Okay, but I just said the one. I'm just considering for the one. Do you understand? I'm not talking about all 11, just
You're
one.
suggesting one position be added to the...
Just be
district attorney's
open
office.
since it's closed, right?
Well, we have to put the funding in for it.
Right, and that was going to be my request.
Okay.
That's my request, Mr. Chair. It's on my wish list. All right, thank you. With the benefits.
Councilwoman Langster.
Thank you. I'm sitting here smiling because my niece is a second-year law student, and I'm hoping someday she'll have her application on your desk. But, Mr. Chair, I hope you'll beg my indulgence and give me a second of personal privilege. But Tori Johnson, you know I've been knowing you for a very long time before you even got the position of assistant, where you were assistant attorney, district attorney, and then you and Doug Johnson went head to head, and you came out the victor. And it has been Nashville, Davidson County's greatest joy. I mean, you have served this community and county and even the state well, because you're part state employee and part metro employee. And I just want to say thank you. When I was in up the hill, up the block away, I would send you my legislation for you to review and advise, and most of the time you did concur. But I really feel sad that you're leaving, but I know you've got something else that you might be thinking of, if it's nothing but playing an extra round of golf. But thank you for your service and your time to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Langster, that's well said. Thank you, General Johnson, for your long distinguished service. We wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, I apologize. Councilwoman Berry, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you. It's a really quick question, and it had to do with, I think, what Council Lady Gilmore was asking for. Last year, when we were looking at trying to add money and positions to your budget, that also impacts the public defender's budget. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so anything that we do for you, we also have to do for the public defender, or some percentage, right?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, I guess. If it's new money, yes. If it's
Okay.
restoring cuts, I don't think that
I
probably
assure you that our next guest is going to look
Okay.
at it the same way.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
Thank you, General.